In the last video, we set up a bunch of stuff around the FLV player, but then we very quickly got confronted with a nasty error message here. It's kind of hard to decipher what's going on with this error message, but you'll notice inside of this component did mount printup right here, it appears that things are starting to go wrong when we try to attach the media player to the video player ref. So let's try adding a console log of the video ref inside of component did mount and figure out what's going wrong. So inside of component did mount, I'm going to add a console.log for this.video ref. I'll save this and we'll see what happens. Okay, so I still see the same error message. Inside of my console over here, I'm going to scroll up just a little bit and I'll see the console log right here. So it says current is null. Now, why could that be? This essentially means that we are not getting the correct reference to that video element. Well, let's kind of think about this a little bit. If we go down to our render method, you'll recall that we have a little bit of a check inside of here. And we say if we do not yet have access to our stream, then we're going to just show a div with loading. So when our component first renders, if we don't have the stream, we are not creating the video element at all. Instead, we just immediately return this div right here. We never create the video, and we never attach our ref to that video element. So that's essentially what's happening. When our component first gets rendered, we're making the div. The video does not get created because we do not yet have our stream. However, I bet you anything that if we dismiss this message right here, or excuse me, we don't need to dismiss it. We can just go back to localhost 3000. And then if we then attempt to click on one of these elements, we will see the video player appear successfully. That's because if we go back to the original list screen, we're going to load up the stream with ID of 1, and so that's going to be inside of our Redux store. When we then attempt to render stream show, we are already in control of the appropriate stream, so we don't encounter this case where we have not yet loaded it up. However, if we refresh the page while we are here, then we have to wait for the AJAX request or the network request to be completed to go and get that stream object. And that's the case where we run into this error message right here. So how can we fix this? Well, there's more than one way to do it. We can either say that we do not want to render anything inside this component until we fetch the stream, and essentially continue what we're doing right here, and then add in some better logic inside of component did mount to decide whether or not we are actually ready to attempt to attach the video player to the video ref. Alternatively, because our render method or the entire component itself only tries to print up the title and the description from the stream, we could only guard against printing out the H1 and H5 right here until we actually get the stream. So in other words, always try to show the video player, but wait to show the title and description until we get the stream. So we could totally do that approach because the video player does not actually depend upon the stream being fetched. Now that would be a really easy approach or real easy solution, but I want to show you the slightly more complicated solution where we're going to essentially make sure that we do not attempt to attach that video player until we successfully get the stream, because I think that's more realistic of what's going to happen in real life. The reason I say it's more realistic is because when we specify the URL right here, we're using the ID, which is already known ahead of time before we load up the appropriate stream. But it's entirely possible that the URL right here might need to reference some property inside of our stream object in order to decide what the actual URL is. So we might need to reference some internal streamer ID or streamer token or something like that when specifying the URL right here. And if we wanted to do that, we would definitely need to have access to the stream. All right, so now that we understand what's going on here, I'm going to remove the console log. So now inside of this component, we only want to attempt to set up this video player right here after we know that the appropriate stream has been actually fetched. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to define another helper method inside this component, and I'm going to call it build player, like so. Then inside of here, I'm going to put a if statement. I'm going to say if this.player exists, in other words, if we've already set up the player, or if this.props.stream does not exist. So notice the not right there. So if we already have a player or if the stream does not yet exist, then just return. Otherwise, we want to go through the process of setting up our player. So I'm going to copy all this stuff right here for this.player all the way down to this.player.load. I'm going to cut it and put it inside of build player. Next up, I need to make sure that we have access to the ID property inside of build player. So I'll just copy that destructuring call from right here inside of component did mount. down into build player like so. So now we've got the ID right here, easily referenced. Next up, anytime our component is first mounted to the screen, we're going to attempt to build a player. So inside of component.mount, I will call this.buildPlayer. So now whenever this component is first rendered, we're going to attempt to fetch our stream. We're also going to try to build the player. So we're going to call buildPlayer if we have not built the player before, and if we do not have the stream, we're going to return. So that's going to take care of the case of us first loading the page and not yet having access to the actual stream. Now, remember, component.mount is only going to be called one time when the component is first rendered to the screen. So just in case we do not yet have access to our stream and we're going to try to fetch it on the fly, we need to have some place to call buildPlayer after we successfully fetch the stream. So to handle that case, we'll define another lifecycle method, component did update. And inside of here, we will also call buildPlayer. So now the idea is that when our component first renders, attempt to build a player. And then if our component fetches the stream successfully at some point in the future and the component re-renders, component did update will be called, and we will attempt to call buildPlayer in there as well. So essentially at any point that this component gets rendered, either the initial render or any follow-up render, we're always going to attempt to build a player. But if we've already built it and we already have a player, or if we do not have the stream, then we're not going to try to build it. All right, so let's save this and try it out inside of our browser. So I'll flip back over, and I do not see any error message whatsoever. I can refresh, everything looks good. I can also go back to the stream index. I can refresh the page over here, navigate over to a stream, and everything still looks good as well. Perfect. All right, so what you see right here is a good example of how we have some task that we want to do inside of a component, and we just need it to happen no matter what, be it either when the component first gets rendered or when it gets re-rendered at some point in the future. So I think this looks pretty good. Let's continue in the next video, where we're going to start to test out actual streaming of video to our application.